Welcome back to another episode of Sally's Speed Shop. I'm here in the shop and we've got a new project here that I'm going to be doing some work on for a local guy. So this is a 1972 Dodge Challenger 440 six-pack car. It's got kind of this off-white color with orange stripes and I really dig this thing. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to try to open the hood one-handed. So here's what we're dealing with. We got a 440 six-pack, and it's not just, you know, an air cleaner on top of a 4-barrel. It's a true six-pack. It's got 3 2-barrel carburetors under that manifold. I'm not doing anything too serious to this car. The guy was driving it, and he had his heater core go bad, so he ended up looping his heater hoses. So I'm gonna be replacing the heater core as well as working on some belt alignment issues. As you can see, keeps checking that belt. So me and Moby are gonna dig into this thing. I'll give you a quick walk around of the car before we actually get to work. Really, really beautiful car in pretty phenomenal shape. It was repainted this nice off-white with the orange racing stripes. Of course, you gotta love the fill caps on these old Mopars. Reminds me of an old boat. It's got the bigger version of the original Mopar rallies on it. With some nice BFG tires. Inside, it's got bucket seats. Nope, you're not getting in this one, bud. Too nice for you. Sorry. And pistol grip shifter. It's got a TKO 5-speed in it, so aftermarket Tremec transmission, so you get that overdrive rather than a 1-to-1 final gear. But super good looking car, and probably the nicest thing that's been in this shop. So yeah, we're gonna get to work. First things first, I gotta drain the coolant, and then I'll be pulling the dash apart. So I might pull the passenger seat out and then be dropping the heater box out from under the dash. We'll see how it goes. This thing is awesome. So I've always been a sucker for these Dodge Challengers, and it's cool to have one in the shop. So first things first, I like to use these fender grippers that I get from Holley on the nicer cars that come into the shop. So have one of the ones that they gave me for being a valued partner of theirs, as well as one of their Holley Classic Trucks ones. If you're gonna be working on anything with nice paint, I highly recommend these things. They'll protect you from scratching it while you're leaning over working on it. So before removing the heater core, I wanna drain the coolant out of this thing. So there's a petcock down here on the bottom of the radiator. Basically, you can just loosen that sucker up. And then to let it drain faster, if you release pressure from the system by pulling the cap, it'll run out a lot quicker. So we've got the coolant draining down there, and that'll take a few minutes. So let me show you what we're working with on the inside of the car. So there's a good bit of room in here, so I don't think I'm actually gonna have to pull the seat out, but I already did pull the section of the glove box out. This was actually completely detached from the lower section, so I was able to just pull it out by hand. You can see the heater and AC box up in there, so I'm going to try to remove just half of it if I can get away with it and replace the heater core without discharging the AC system, but kind of skeptical on that. You can actually see right here where the heater box actually had a little crack put in it when the heater core let go, and then coolant came all out of here onto the passenger floor. So this is going to require a little bit of work to strengthen this corner back up and get it all sealed up like it should be. So one thing at a time. You can actually see some coolant right there. Don't know if I picked that up on camera, but I got some coolant that's dripping from right there. You can see it running down my finger. So definitely has a bad heater core. Little vacuum canister is just sitting here on the floor for some reason. That's a little strange, but we'll get it figured out. I'm gonna try to pull just the front half of this guy out. That's gonna be a lot easier. That is if I can get to all the screws all the way around that hold it in. You can see these screw heads under here. They go all around the outside. So we'll see what we can do. Hopefully I don't have to pull too much apart. So far I started out by removing the glove box door. There's just some Phillips screws along here and a couple nuts holding this actual stopper on. and you can just pull it out of the way. That gives you a lot better access up inside there. I think I'm also gonna pull the ashtray out, and I'm noticing that the interior of this car used to be green. So you can see green back behind where this stopper was, as well as on the ashtray. So at some point, this interior was painted black, it appears. Looks pretty good though. So 2 more Phillips screws, and you can wiggle the ashtray out of place. And that gives you another access hole to get in behind the dash. And I'm seeing even more green. So this car was definitely green, at least on the inside. But there you go, got those 2 out of the way. Got this lower trim piece we can take off if we need to. So we'll see. I'm gonna get up in there and start taking loose some stuff that holds the heater box in. And then we'll be pulling the heater hoses off on the outside. And like I said, seeing if we can keep that AC intact without having to discharge the system. This has been converted to R134, so if we do have to change it, it's no big deal. We'll just evacuate the system and then recharge it with R134 instead of the old R12. Let's hope to avoid that. So I've been getting some progress made, opening up some space. Got this lower piece of trim off the bottom of the dash, which gives me even more room to work, and pulled a couple different pieces off the heater box. So the tubing that runs from there up to these vents is already out of the way, so I can see up in here. And I pulled a little cover off that goes right here, as well as moving this diaphragm out of the way. And as you can see, if you look right here, we got a little leak. So when I pulled this screw out, fluid started running out of there, and I caught it on a towel. And now I can see the heater core up in there, which is what I need to replace. And I'm curious if I can take this whole thing off of the back side of the heater box without removing the heater box entirely. We're gonna find out here in a second. So got some more stuff to remove from up top. Got to pull this bracket and move some of these vacuum lines. But you can definitely see that this car was green now that I've got some space. I mean, there is a lot of green under the dash still. But we're making some progress, a little bit at a time. Got a fan blowing on me because anytime you're working under a dash, if you've ever worked under a dash, you know that you sweat a lot when you're working in those confined spaces. It's never fun, but it's part of working on and fixing cars. So I've been trying to pull the heater box out from under the dash without actually removing anything from the firewall. And unfortunately, there's just too much stuff in the way to be able to get to the top screws. I am going to actually have to crack the AC system right here by the firewall, and then remove the entire heater box and AC box as one unit. Me and Moby are gonna get on that. Gotta pull off basically the blower motor as well as the nuts that are on both sides of the blower motor, and I believe there's 2 nuts over there further in. So we're gonna start stripping this apart and making some room so we can actually pull this thing out of here. So as you can see, we've got the heater box disconnected from the firewall. So this is where your AC lines come through. This is where your heater lines come through. And then that's where your blower motor mounts. It just takes 3 3/8 nuts to hold it on. Basically you take 4 different 7/16 nuts off of the studs that stick out of the back of the heater box to pull it off the firewall. And all I did was pull those off, and everything just kind of fell. On the inside, I'll just have to basically drop that thing down and then pull it out from underneath the dash. Let me show you that real quick. Pretty easy to take out. I did get a little oil on the firewall from the AC system when I broke loose the lines, but I'll just clean that up with a towel before I put it back in. So as you can see inside, the heater box has already started to fall down under the dash. I'm hoping I have enough room to just drop this thing down and slide it out from under the dash. I may have to move the center console. because this might hit right here. It's kind of looking like it will, but we'll see. I might be able to wiggle it out this way first and then just slide it out. So let me set you guys up over here and let you watch me struggle. All right, here we go. Let's see how this works and if it's utter pain in the butt or if it actually goes pretty smoothly. I'm pretty sure I have most of my vacuum lines disconnected. There might be a couple more that I need to pull off. We'll see about that here momentarily. Got to disconnect these plugs. That should be all of the wiring on this thing. And then in theory, we can work this thing out and get these vacuum lines off once we actually have it out from under the dash. I'm trying to see anything else that's connected, but I really can't. Oh, I think there's a drain to disconnect still. Let me see where that is hiding. I can't find the drain, but I know that there's supposed to be one. I can't find anything, so let's see if I can pull this out a little further. Yeah, I think the center console is going to have to move, unfortunately. So let me get that out of the way, and then I should be able to drop this down a little further. That's not ideal. Nice thing is, center console was super easy in this car. It's just 2 screws back here, and the whole thing just lifts up. So I'll just lift it up and slide it over the shifter, and it'll be in business. Love it when it's something that simple, instead of having to fight a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there we go. Center console is officially out of the way. So now we get to turn our attention back to this heater box. So I'm gonna have to pull these screws off. And I think that's kind of what was holding us, was the antenna. So yeah, I'll get that loose and then this thing should just slide out. All right, there we go. Got the antenna out of the way. Now I can just slide this thing out of here, take loose the vacuum lines that are on the back side of this guy, and we should be in business. Vacuum lines are a little brittle, and we'll say that. So you gotta be a little careful with them, but that should pull out now. And then we can just take loose these clips or just feed the vacuum lines through those little holders. And this thing's pretty much out of there. Yeah, buddy. All right, here we go. This should just slide out now. We've got everything disconnected. Well, I say that. All right, there we go, got it loose. There we go. Heater box is out. So your heater core is over here, your AC is over here. These are the 2 screws I couldn't get to actually separate it. But even if I had gotten to separate it, the AC evaporator core is screwed to the section that I needed to pull out. So I'll get this up on the bench, continue taking it apart, and then show you what we're dealing with. So if you look closely, you can see how it mounts to the firewall. There's a screw here, over here, and right there. And those just have nuts that thread onto them. And then the blower motor sandwiches right here. So we'll get this thing rebuilt and cleaned up and back in the car. All right, so got the heater box over on the workbench. So now I'll be able to finish taking out the rest of the screws around the outside, pull off these seals, and get this thing split apart so I can actually gain access to the faulty heater core in here. So this particular HVAC box has screws instead of the clips. Some of these old Mopars will have clips that actually pop over each of these joints and hold these 2 boxes together. But this one has screws, so you just take a 5/16 bit on an impact and just buzz them off real quick. I took a bunch of them out in the car because I was trying to separate the rear portion of this box from the front portion while it was still in the vehicle to keep from having to discharge the AC. But I'll show you why that's not possible. Let me get this off real quick and then peel it apart and show you the inside. Meanwhile, Moby's working on the packing and shipping department over here. What you doing, bud? Moby, what are you doing? Yeah, you're pretty adorable. He's unboxing some stuff for the Camaro project, but yeah, I'll let him get on that while I do this. All right, so get your 5/16, put it on an impact, and you should be able to just buzz these off, no problem. There's one, Need a longer extension on that one. There we go. Got both of those out. And I took a bunch out in the car, but this should just separate now, if we're lucky. There is some glue holding it together, so you might have to fight it a little, but once you get it to start going, you can just work a flathead screwdriver around. You're gonna wanna pull off this seal so that this section can actually separate. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So there we go, it's starting to separate. We'll just pull this whole thing apart. Beautiful. All right, I think we've pretty much got it separated. So now, we can lay this on its back and lift this guy, if we're lucky. We're fighting this gasket, is what's happening right now. There you go, got that gasket out of the way. I think I gotta pull this guy off right here. And there we go, we got separation there. Yep, there was our problem. So you can see it's kind of messy in here. We'll clean up this insulation. See how it just turns to dust when I touch it? That stuff is ancient. And as you can see, if you just touch it, it just disintegrates. So we'll get that cleaned up, clean up whatever the heck that is. It's pretty gross. Not sure, but the AC system still looks pretty dang good. And obviously it was holding pressure. So we'll leave this stock evaporator in here, and we'll just be changing the heater core on this section right here. So like I said, we wouldn't have been able to actually pull this back section of the box out, unfortunately, because the evaporator is actually attached to it. As you can see, that's firmly attached to the back section of the box. So I wanted to just drop that out from under the dash and leave this attached, but you can't do that. In my opinion, they should have attached this to this section of the box instead of to this section, because then you would be able to pull the rear section of the box off and replace just the heater core without ever discharging the AC system. But luckily, this car was already converted over to R134 instead of R12, so we'll be able to use the modern stuff in it and not have to worry about tracking down some R12. But there we go. Time to get this thing all stripped down. We're gonna be replacing a lot of these seals. We got a seal kit from Detroit Muscle. So it's got everything to basically rebuild this entire box. So we're gonna make it as good as new before it goes back in the car. Now that we've got it separated, you can see the issue we had going on here. So on this corner and on this corner, this heater core is pretty much completely blown out. You can see where it's been leaking for a while, but it finally let go and actually just dumped coolant inside the car. So at that point, he had to loop the heater core and didn't have heat anymore. And now that it's winter, you kind of need heat to drive the car. The AC evaporator is still in really good condition, so we'll just get this cleaned up, get rid of some of this old insulation and replace it with some new stuff from Detroit Muscle Incorporated. And that'll be making this thing like new. So we'll check all the vacuum modulators, make sure everything's working as it should on all these doors. And like I said, get these seals replaced because they're dry and crusty. And make it good as new before it goes back in the car. Let me show you how to replace this real quick. Basically, there's just a couple 5/16 screws holding this heater core in. Once you get those out, you just pull the thing right out and swap a new one in. We got this one from OER. It's pretty much a direct drop-in. Looks pretty much identical to the old one. I'll show you them side by side when we get it apart. And this is made for the cars with AC. You have to get a different one if you have a car that's just a factory heat car with no AC, but this works really good. And as you can see, it's brass and copper, just like the original, rather than being one of the cheap aluminum remans that you can get from China. But yeah, that'll work great in this thing. So like I said, we got a couple 5/16 screws holding this heater core in. So all we'll do is just buzz those out real quick, and you'll have to lift up this insulation here to actually get to the others and actually get enough room for this flange to be able to come out. So, like I said, we're gonna be replacing this anyway, so it really doesn't matter if I tear it up. But if you're reusing it, you're gonna wanna be real careful pulling this insulation up so you don't put tears in it like I just did right there. Once you get that out of the way, you'll be good to go. I think I've got one screw hiding on this side, and once I get that out of the way, we'll be in business. All right, there we go. Got the 2 screws out, and now this thing should just pop on out of there. Like you said, you're gonna have to pull this seal up as best you can, because this thing has a flange all the way around that holds it down. So just slide a screwdriver or a putty knife around the outside, and then just pry this thing out of there. Once you get it to start separating, you can just pick it up. Come on. There we go, just like that. The old heater core is out. You can see just how crusty and gross this thing is. And yeah, that gives us room for the new one to go in. There's the busted old junk. You can see all that corrosion on it from over the years. It's actually rusted there on the bottom lip. And here is the new one. So you can see they're virtually identical. The only difference that I can see are these couple holes right here and right here are slightly different and don't exist on the new one. But other than that, the mounting holes are the same. So that's where one of the screws goes in, the other screw goes in right there. And as you can see, the outlets are exactly the same, and there's one more mounting screw in between the 2 pipes. So yeah, basically just gonna get this cleaned up, scrape all this gasket out. We're gonna be replacing this, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off the entire thing and make room for the new one that we got in the kit right there. So there we go. So here's a look inside the heater box and where the AC evaporator resides. As you can see, over the years, this stuff gets super dirty, and now's a great time to clean it out. In addition to changing all of the foam seals in here, you see I just touched those and they just turned to powder. So you want to change that stuff out while you're in here, and make sure you go and check all of your doors in here. They all work off of vacuum. So basically there's vacuum lines that run to these little vacuum canisters, and you can test your doors by opening them and closing them and holding, like you can hear that vacuum. So if I held my finger on one of these, let's see, I'll have to show you one that works really well with it. So here on the other half, if you open this door, you can actually hear the vacuum canister working. And if you actually sit here and hold this one, so if I flip this thing over, so you see this door right here, it's on a spring. So if you open it and then hold that vacuum and then let it go, it actually closes. So you can test all your doors, make sure they're working, get them greased up how they should be. They all seem to be functioning pretty well. So we'll clean this all up and replace the seals. And always make sure you actually remove your AC evaporator out of the way. It's just 4 screws that hold this thing in from the back. And you'll find a mess like this in most heater boxes. So get this cleaned up and out of the way rather than leaving it in there, and we'll be in business. So otherwise, everything looks in really good shape. So I'm just gonna get to cleaning and then putting back together with all the new seals. So now that I've got the box all cleaned up, it's time to install the new rubber and foam kit from Detroit Muscle Technologies. And basically, I'm just gonna lay everything out on the table and then start putting it on the box. So here we go. So here you go. The new kit is all laid out. You can see it comes with every seal you need to make this box like brand new. All the foam for the backs of the doors, the foam that goes around the edges of every vent and door, the insulation pad that goes between the firewall and the box, all of it. And it even comes with super detailed instructions with pictures describing where each seal goes. So if you're restoring a 71 to 74 E-body, this is the kit to go with. I mean, it's super nice, very well laid out, and kind of mimics everything that they did in the factory as close as you can get for modern replacement parts. And I'm gonna be attaching it all with DEI spray adhesive. So they sell a bunch of good insulation and sound deadening stuff for your cars, and they also sell this really awesome spray adhesive that's pretty on par with the 3M stuff that a lot of people use. Anyway, this will do the trick, and we'll just attach all this stuff to the box, put it back together, and put it back in the car over there.
And I just happen to be doing a water pump on the 67 C10 that's out there. Jacob doesn't let me work in the shop. He puts his dad outside.
Yeah.
That's how it is with these kids, you know? No respect.
Well,
but anyway, I found a nice aluminum one at AutoZone for the same price, or about the same price as the cast one at O'Reilly. So sorry, O'Reilly, didn't use it this time, but this is like 40 bucks, I think.
Yeah, not too bad.
And it's made in Mexico, not China.
In my defense, I didn't know he was coming over to work on any particular project, so we just happened to pick the one that's outside in the driveway instead of in here in the shop.
But it's only 8 bolts to do a water pump on a straight 6 Chevrolet, so I'm not really complaining. It's fine, and the weather's nice, so
could be worse.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm gonna get all this stuff put in the box and then put it in the car. There we go, it's like new now. We've got fresh foam on the fresh air door. This is the seal that actually seals between the two halves of the box. Got the new heater core in. Got a new gasket where the blower motor goes. New foam on this door over here. And now basically I've just got to put this butyl strip across the bottom of that side of the box and then screw them back together. And it's pretty much ready to go. Just got to add a couple more seals once it's in the vehicle. This seals this and the heater core. So super nice kit, works really well. It's kind of tedious. You get a bunch of glue on your fingers, but it's nice because now everything will be nice and tight. You won't have any air leaking past certain things when you're trying to use heat versus AC. So it'll work pretty good.
I like it. It's good for 50 more years now.
And boom, just like that, we've got a freshly rebuilt heater box. Has new insulation here on the side that sits against the firewall, as well as new foam for all of the studs. We've got foam on the drain, as well as the little hose that comes off the blower motor to blow some fresh air into here. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. Now it's pretty much ready to go back up in the car. We got the new foam on the doors, and all the doors move really nicely, and all of the vacuum canisters still work perfectly. I think it's gonna be good for quite a long time after this. You can see new foam in there as well. It's a pretty nice kit. So now I need to work on finagling it back up under the dash, which is always fun. So see if we can make that happen. Oh, goodness. This is gonna be fun, I can already tell. So I'm gonna start by routing all my vacuum lines back across the top of the box, and then we'll work on wiggling this thing in here. So just like that, all the vacuum lines are routed here across the top of the box. So now we just get to wiggle this thing up in there and pull these through slowly as we go. Let's see how that goes. All right, slide this over. Go ahead and pull on these a little bit. I got to get it to about where that little T is over there, and then it's ready to go up into position. So we'll slowly work our way over, and hopefully it'll go right to its home. Come on. There we go, that's about where that goes. These go to these two, and then these go around the back of the box. Now, how did I get this thing in here before? I don't remember. Oh, there we go. We're almost in business. I'll pull this just a little bit more. It's about where it sits, if I remember correctly. And now it's just a matter of getting this thing into position. Can't tell what I'm doing. Oh, I'm hitting right here. There we go. Whew. Now this might seem strange, but I'm actually gonna take a football and jam it up under the box. And I think that's gonna be my best bet to hold this thing in position while I try to finagle it back to its home. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's going through its holes right now. I'm gonna try to jam my football in there, see what I can do from under the hood. I will say this would be much easier with a second person. If you look closely, you can see my AC lines in that hole right there. The heater lines are in the hole to its right. The blower motor mounts, you can kind of see those studs down there. They still need to come forward. Everything needs to come forward about 2 inches, but now it's a matter of getting everything to line up. And that's the tricky part. I think it needs to shift over to the passenger side just a tiny bit and then come forward a couple inches. So I'm gonna get back under the dash and keep wrestling it and hope it goes where I want it to. I will say, this football is a real MVP though. Who knew that would be the answer for kind of holding it in place while I adjust it slightly. Anyway, we're making it happen. It's just kind of a difficult thing to do solo, but we'll get it done. Well, that actually went pretty smoothly. Just a couple times in and out from the passenger compartment to under the hood. You can see the heater core outlets as well as the AC outlets right there. Blower motor studs are right where they're supposed to be. Got all the bolts and nuts started that hold that thing to the firewall. And then going inside, you can see we got to tidy up some wiring. But this football is the real MVP of this job. Like, Wilson, you are a true pal. Damaged it a little bit, but still plenty good to throw. But without that, that would have been nearly impossible. So there's a little trick for you. Use a football, who knew? But got to plug in all my vacuum lines up here as well as down here on the back. Run my wiring everywhere it needs to be. Also need to put on the strap that holds it to the cowl. There you go. It's kind of in place. Still got to get it to go all the way on there. Put a couple nuts on it and it'll be good to go. So not too bad, but definitely not the most fun job in the world working under this dash. I've already got my vents up inside of here. I just got to add one more piece that's actually still here in the car that has the gauges attached to it, and this will go basically on this hole right here and then run to these vents right above it. Then I'll put the ashtray back in, glove box back in, center console back where it goes, and it'll be dialed. Whew, I'm out of breath, but that's a win. Well, there we go. I went ahead and put in the center console and finished installing the heater box under the dash. Everything is tightened up and good to go. All the vacuum lines are run. I'm gonna leave the glove box out for now while I go test drive it. And that way, if I see any problems, I'll be able to just look in there and find them. So far, I don't see any leaks, and I've already started topping off the radiator, so I think we're in good shape. All we have left to do is put the air cleaner back on, and then we'll have to charge the AC, but I'm gonna take it for a test drive before I charge the AC, because if there's any leaks and I have to take this thing back apart, there's no point in wasting a good AC charge. So I'm gonna finish topping this thing off, and then I'm gonna be addressing this belt issue. It keeps throwing the power steering belt off, and then hopefully we'll be going for a test drive, but we're getting there a little bit at a time. Not the most fun job in the world, but it's a really cool car, and that helps a lot. So I have it up in the air to bleed any excess air out of the system by making the radiator the highest point. So a little trick for you guys, if you don't have a funnel to burp it with, you can just do that. I've already added a good bit of antifreeze. Now I'm just gonna top it off with some distilled water and hopefully let whatever air is in the system burp out as much as I can before I run it. Beautiful. See if we can get the air to come out of this hose, because it's a little bit higher than the highest point of the radiator until you push it down. So there we go, got some air out. I think that's about all we're gonna get. Just like that, she's topped off and ready to go, but that's gonna wait till tomorrow because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and don't think the neighbors would appreciate me test driving this car this time of night. So it's gonna sit in the shop tonight, think about what it's done, and then tomorrow we'll take it for a rip and see what happens. Well, I said I was gonna call it a night, but got a little carried away and went ahead and addressed the power steering belt. So I kept kicking the AC and power steering belt off. So I added a washer to kind of clock the AC compressor a little bit. I will say the power steering pump is a little wonky. The pulley isn't exactly true, but I also tightened it. And so I'm thinking we might be in business on that. We'll have to just watch it while it runs and see what happens. But everything should be good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing off and see what happens. Got to do the neutral wiggle. Fans kick on automatically. Oh, there's a switch for them. I was wondering what this switch down here was for. That turns on the fans apparently, so I'm gonna turn those off. Let's see if the blower motor works. The blower motor is working, which is awesome. Sounds quiet, so we did that right. We're gonna go ahead and turn this guy back off and give it a couple little squirts on the carburetor. Let's see if she fires off. It fired right up, but then it died. All right, a little more gas. Just want to make sure it's in neutral. Power steering's working. That's way nicer. We're idling at about 800 RPM. Let's do some investigating under the hood. Power steering belt is staying on. Thing's idling beautifully. So that belt looks like it's staying pretty true now, so I think we might be in business. You can see it kind of riding on the back side of the AC compressor, but I think we'll be all right. This thing shakes like crazy. Might be missing on a cylinder. I'm gonna have to check that out. But I don't see any leaks from the heater core. I don't see any coolant leaks at all. So I think we're in good shape. Let's give it a little RPM. Gotta love triple 2-barrel 6-pack. There we go. It's a runner. This thing sounds so good too. let it get up to temperature and then shut it off and see if we've got any leaks. But then we'll be test driving it tomorrow and finishing putting it back together. Yeah, what a cool car. All right, well, it is officially time to take this thing for a test drive and see how it does. And now, should be good to go. So we'll put the hood pins in. I gotta fix this one. Oh, drive me nuts. There you go, gotta have your hood pin cables sitting the same. Make your OCD a little happier. See how this thing fires up. Well, seems like it doesn't have spark for some reason. Strange. All right, well, I don't see anything obvious, but I guess I'm just gonna try to start it again. Wiggled a bunch of wires, we'll see what happens. Strange, never given me any problem like that before. Gotta pull the e-brake. I know you guys couldn't see it, but I saw the problem. This ground right here is loose, and I could see it sparking while I was in the car. So the ground for the MSD box is a little finicky, so I'm gonna tighten that up, and then we should be good to go. So here you go, let me give you a closer view of the problem. See that guy? That is definitely moving, and that shouldn't be moving, so we're just gonna tighten this, and I think we'll be in business. So that's what was causing it not to have spark, was that was loose. So you see, not moving at all anymore. I think we're going to be good to go. All right, well, let's try that again. Hopefully this time, it plays a little nicer. Let's jump in this thing and take it for a spin. Man, does it sound good. Love the flush mount door handles on these Challengers. Let's see what we got in here. Idling at 1,000 RPM. 75 pounds of oil pressure at idle. That's awesome. 190 degrees. I think we're doing all right. Let's see if we turn on heat. Turn the fan on. Oh yeah, it's definitely warm. We're gonna turn that off though, because it is not cold outside. So let's pull the e-brake release and then take this thing for a spin. Throw it into first and slowly release the clutch and roll nice and slow up the gravel driveway in this very low Dodge Challenger with big tires on it, so gotta try not to rub. Power steering is working beautifully. That's always a good sign. So this is one of my dream cars actually, is a 1971 Dodge Challenger RT 446 pack. Generally a Hemi would be the go-to, but I want a Hemi and a 66 Charger instead. So it's pretty special to be able to be driving this car right now. I know it's just a test drive, it's not my car, but it's still super cool. So we're gonna take this thing for a little spin, see how it does. All right, come to a stop, put it in first gear. going a little bit of a cruise. Got a little bit of a stumble, but we'll see if that clears up. Pretty sweet driving car. There's a deer. Oh, there's multiple deer. Let's not wreck this beautiful car on this road. But we get to enjoy it in a little bit of the twisties down here. So far it's staying cool. Still running at around 190 degrees. Got the electric fans on and the mechanical fan on. Oh, more deer. There's so many freaking deer. Yeah, this might not be the road for test drives. So we'll turn it around in a second. Then we're gonna run off to the auto parts store. But I think she might be good to go. Heat's working. All we gotta do now is charge the AC. Well, there you go. Car is officially back from its test drive and had no real issues. It's got a little bit of a stumble, so I think it might need a bit of a tune-up, but she's a runner. The heat works, doesn't leak, stays cool, so I'm gonna call it a win. I'm gonna head over to my buddy David's shop on Thursday and get the AC charged, and obviously still gotta put together the bottom of the dash, but she's just about ready to go. This thing is such an awesome car. Well, I didn't really film charging the AC in the Challenger or delivering it to the customer, but that car is now gone, and we have replaced it with a 70 Plymouth Satellite that we're gonna be doing some work on. But you're gonna have to wait to see that in a future episode of Sally's Speed Shop. But for now, I just wanna say thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm not just saying that. If you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, it makes a big difference for our videos getting seen by more people and allowing us to do more cool stuff here in the shop, as well as some of the ridiculous adventures we end up on. So anyway, again, thanks for watching. Catch you guys on the next one.